Since becoming Executive Director of Translators Without Borders, I've been struck by how the humanitarian system discriminates on the basis of language. Our system is inherently discriminatory because we primarily work in what I call the nearest colonial language. So for example, in Bangladesh, we work in English, even though Bangla is spoken by more people than speak Portuguese and about the same number that speak Arabic. I think that language is one manifestation of systemic discrimination in our system. And I hope that the collective outrage we feel about discrimination can help us to build a more inclusive humanitarian system. The good news is that language is not only a part of the problem, it is an essential part of the solution. Humanitarian response is coordinated in the nearest colonial language and delivered in a narrow range of national languages, usually based on the assumption that almost everyone speaks them. But we know, based on evaluations of localization, that working in these dominant languages excludes people, particularly in humanitarian coordination and response planning. We also don't systematically collect information on the languages and literacy levels of people affected by crises and plan communications on that basis. Instead, we rely on colleagues hired locally to manage language barriers as they occur. This fails to take into account that many of these colleagues speak major languages, and it places an unfair burden on them to make them responsible for translation and interpretation. It also reinforces the power dynamic by putting or keeping people from dominant language groups in positions of power and making them responsible for framing people's needs and developing programming. There are, of course, solutions in the short term and medium term. The medium-term solutions are not easy or inexpensive, but they can help us to build a more inclusive humanitarian system for the longer term. Language technology, with enough data, is transformative. We have this incredibly powerful, life-changing technology at our fingertips, ready to expand. But we lack the data because of an unwillingness to invest. Language technology like machine translation or automated speech recognition are hugely advanced. Think of Siri or Alexa. And with enough data and recordings, we can build that in any language. And a number of organizations are already taking this on and finding that it works. IFRC collaborated with TWB in the Democratic Republic of Congo to build Uji, a multilingual conversational AI chatbot that speaks Lingala, Congolese Swahili, and French. Uji engages people in real conversations, answering their questions about COVID-19 in their own language. Uji has a number of benefits for the humanitarian community, but one of the unintended benefits was that it helped community engagement volunteers. They were trained in French, and Uji helped them to find the right words and give the right answers in local languages. Another organization, Kobo Toolbox, is also using natural language processing to allow humanitarian organizations to systematically record, transcribe, and translate their engagement with crisis-affected people. This helps to improve their data collection methods and feedback mechanisms. I'm really not suggesting that we have the means to build Star Trek's universal translator. I am suggesting that by building language data and using language technology, we can build a humanitarian system where all of our colleagues can ask questions, get answers, and engage in conversations in the language that they feel most comfortable working in. In the short term, there are a number of things that we can do that are fairly simple. We can hire staff that don't speak perfect English or French, but are motivated and super smart, and have budget lines for translation and interpretation to reduce the burden on them. We can write in plain English and insist that others do it. This will make it easier for non-native speakers to understand. It will also make it easier to translate. We can systematically record needs assessments and interviews. This will make our data much more accurate if we work with translators to transcribe and translate it. It will also have the added benefit of building the data, once anonymized, that we can use to build language technology. Donors can make application processes, reporting, and compliance much simpler and less reliance on a perfect command of English and French. Taken together, these short and medium-term solutions can help us to build a humanitarian system that is less discriminatory and more equitable. They can help us to channel our collective outrage towards setting realistic expectations, gathering language data, and using language technology to help us build a more inclusive humanitarian system. There's still a long way to go, and TWB is gathering as many minds as possible to work on this problem. We invite you to join us. Thank you.